Hello everybody, welcome to this video. Today we'll be discussing about circulatory system in human beings. So in this body system, we'll be discussing about blood, heart and blood vessels. Similarly, we'll be discussing how blood is distributed throughout the body. So it is the body system which is related with distribution of blood throughout the body. So you know that heart is the main center of circulatory system, and heart pumps the blood throughout the body, and heart also collects the impure blood from the whole body. So this body system is called circulatory system. So that is why the body system which is related with circulation of blood throughout the body is known as circulatory system. As I told you before, it is composed of blood, heart and blood vessels. So now we'll be discussing about blood. So blood, it is red colored fluid that you have seen, and it flows throughout the body in blood vessels. So since it connects different parts of the body, that's why blood is also called connective tissue. So blood is fluid connective tissue, and it is circulated throughout the body in blood vessels. In normal adult human being, it is present around 5.5 liters of blood, and it makes 5 to 8% of our total body weight. Initially, the blood is red in color, but if you keep this blood without disturbance for few minutes, then you will see the two clear parts here. That means our blood has got two components. So they are, one is blood plasma, the yellowish fluid is blood plasma, and the reddish solid structure is called blood corpuscles. So that is why our blood is composed of two components, plasma and RBC. And if you compare the portion of plasma and RBC, here you can see plasma more. That means plasma occupy 55% of blood, whereas blood corpuscles occupy 45% of the blood. So now let us discuss about blood plasma. So blood plasma, it is yellowish fluid, okay, and as I told you before, it composes 55% of total blood by volume. And if you look at plasma only, then it is almost water. So 90% of plasma is made of water, and remaining 10% is protein. It contains protein, minerals, hormones, waste materials, nutrients, antibodies, etc. It also contains special proteins like fibrinogen. So it can be asked in exam to you. This fibrinogen protein is very important, present in the blood plasma. And why it is important? Because it helps in clotting blood. So fibrinogen will help in clotting blood with the help of another blood cells called platelets. So platelets and fibrinogen protein, they work together and helps in clotting. So that's why question may come sometime to you. Name the protein present in plasma which helps in clotting blood. So your answer should be, it is fibrinogen. So as I told you, in plasma, 90% water and 10% is protein. So one of the protein present in plasma is fibrinogen. So if there is less of fibrinogen, then what may happen? It may not clot. So means the bleeding will continue, and in case of injury, the bleeding will occur continuously and person may die because of this problem. So this disease is known as hemophilia. And functions of plasma, since it is 90% water, so that's why its function is mainly transportation. So it transports nutrients, excretory waste, hormone, etc. from one part of body to another part of the body. Similarly, it has a controlling function, so we call it regulate. So it also regulates body temperature because it is 90% water. So it controls our body temperature and amount of water as well. Now let's go to the another component of blood, that is blood corpuscles. And plasma makes 55%, means blood corpuscles make 45% of blood by volume. And it is of three types. The first is RBC or erythrocytes. RBC is also called red blood corpuscles. Here you can see they are RBCs. Similarly, next is WBC, or it is also called white blood corpuscles. Here it is, which is largest blood cell. It is also known as leukocytes. And lastly, we have thrombocytes or platelets. So platelets is the smallest blood cell, and it has a role in clotting of blood. So platelets and the protein present in plasma, that is fibrinogen, they work together to clot the blood. Now let us discuss about blood corpuscles. The first blood corpuscles is RBC. Among these three blood cells, RBC is found in maximum number, so that is why our blood is red in color. If you look at the shape of the RBC, then it is circular. It is circular, and the middle part is it is depressed inside, so that's why it is called biconcave structure, and it has no nucleus. So about the extra information about RBC is it is circular, as I told you, and it is biconcave because from both sides it is depressed inside, and it has no nucleus. So this is the a very unique cell. Normally a cell has nucleus, but RBC doesn't have nucleus. The reason is that to provide more space for hemoglobin, because RBC is red in color due to the pigment called hemoglobin. So due to absence of nucleus inside RBC, there will be more space available. So that is why hemoglobin can easily fit inside it. They are found in largest number, as I told you, around 45 lakhs to 50 lakhs per cubic millimeter in blood. So since it is found maximum number, that's why our blood is red in color. If WBC was found in more amount, then our blood could be colorless. But right now our blood is red in color because of maximum number of RBC present in the blood. And it survives for 90 to 120 days, means 3 months to 4 months in average. And it is formed in red bone marrow that is present inside the bone. There are two types of bone marrow, red bone marrow and yellow bone marrow. So red bone marrow forms the blood cells and destroyed in liver and spleen. Every day, around like every second in a body, 20 lakhs RBCs are destroyed and it is replaced by the new RBC. And as I told you, why our RBC red in color? Because of the pigment presence in RBC known as hemoglobin. And hemo means iron and globin means protein. So RBC is containing the pigment called hemoglobin. And because of hemoglobin, it makes blood red in color. And hemoglobin main function is to carry the oxygen. And when oxygen is combined with hemoglobin, it is known as oxyhemoglobin. The person who lives in high altitude, like in mountains, normally they have 30% more RBCs than the people who live in the low altitude. And if this RBC is less in number, then it will cause one disease, and the disease is called anemia. And the person who is suffered by anemia, it will because the function of RBC is to carry oxygen, and if less RBC means there will be less supply of oxygen in the body, and due to what will happen, person will not get energy, so person gets tired soon. So this question is important for you. Question may come, what is anemia? Or question may be asked, how anemia is caused? Then your answer is, anemia is the disease which is caused due to less number of RBC in the blood. And what will be symptom? The person gets tired soon. Why? Because there will be less supply of oxygen, and less supply of oxygen means there will be less production of energy, and that makes person tired soon. And function of RBC is, as RBC contains hemoglobin, and the main function of hemoglobin is to carry oxygen. And the hemoglobin which carry oxygen is called oxyhemoglobin. So hemoglobin is present in RBC, and hemoglobin carry oxygen means that becomes function of RBC. That is why the function of RBC is to transfer oxygen from lungs to various part of the body. Now let's go to another blood corpuscles, that is WBC. It is also called leukocytes, or it is also called white blood corpuscles. Though it is white in, name is white, but it doesn't mean they are white in color. They are colorless. And you can see the shape. They don't have any fixed shape. They change the shape continuously like amoeba. That's why we call it irregular in shape. Okay, and they have a very distinct big nucleus. In RBC there was no nucleus, but WBC has a very distinct nucleus. That is why if you happen to write difference between RBC and WBC, this can be one difference. RBC has no nucleus, but WBC has distinct nucleus that you can see inside it. And it is larger in size. Actually, it is the largest cell, blood cell, let's say. And our WBC is two types. One is granular and other is non-granular. Like example, here you can see this monocyte and lymphocyte. You can see here inside there is no granules. You can see one in nucleus inside it. There are no granules. Granules means dot-like structures. So they are called non-granular. Why? Because they have no granules. But the remaining three, like eosinophil, basophil, and neutrophil, if you look at inside, the cytoplasm contains a lot of granules. So that's why granular. So there are two types of WBC, granular WBC and non-granular WBC. So what are the example of granular WBC? You can see the figure. This neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil, they have granules inside the cytoplasm. That's why they are called granular cytoplasm. So it has function to remove the toxin from the body. Okay, if any toxic substances enter in our body, then these granular leukocytes remove from our body. Whereas we have remaining two, monocytes and lymphocytes, they are non-granular. Why? Because they don't have any granules inside. So they are the example of non-granular leukocytes, and they are involved with killing the germs. So it has been asked, write different type of granular leukocytes present in human body, or it may be asked, write different non-granular leukocytes present in human body. So you can write these things like granular leukocytes are eosinophil, basophil, and neutrophil, and non-granular are monocytes and lymphocytes. They have no granules inside the cytoplasm. And function already I told you, granular leukocytes are involved in removing toxins from the body, whereas non-granular leukocytes, they are involved with killing the germs. If any germs enter in our body, then non-granular leukocytes are activated. It is found in less number, around 6,000 to 10,000 per cubic millimeter in blood. But RBC, if you remember, it was found 45 to 50 lakh per cubic millimeter in blood. So RBC is found maximum number in blood, but WBC it is found less in number, around 6,000 to 10,000. And average lifespan of WBC is just 2 weeks, means it survived around 15 days, whereas RBC was surviving up to 90 to 120 days. So this can be also another difference. And it is formed in bone marrow, red bone marrow, same as RBC, and it is also produced in lymph node and spleen. And regarding the problem that we'll see in WBC, like if RBC is less, then it can cause anemia. But in this case, if WBC is more than average, then what will happen? The person will suffer a disease, and that is called blood cancer or leukemia. So question may come, how leukemia is caused or how blood cancer is caused? Then you can simply say, when WBC is more than average present, then leukemia is caused. Now regarding the function, as I told you, the like granulocytes, they are involved with removing toxins from our body, and non-granular are involved with killing germs. So that is the function of WBC. So its function is to fight and destroy the germs by producing antibodies and removing the toxins from the body. And the last blood cells that we have is platelets. It is the smallest number. It is the smallest in size, and it also has no nucleus. You can see this is platelets, and it has irregular shape, and it is found around 2 to 4 lakhs per cubic millimeter in blood. All right, and it is also formed in red bone marrow, same like before, and lifespan is 2 to 3 days, means it has the shortest life cycle. And function is already we said, it works in coordination with fibrinogen and helps in clotting the blood. Okay, this is about blood corpuscles. Now let us go to the another topic, that is function of blood. So blood has got mainly three functions. So it can be asked, write any three functions of blood. So if this question is asked, you will be asked the 3 marks because it has three functions. So one is, of course, blood is a fluid and it is circulated throughout the body. That means it has got the main function of blood is to transport. That's why the first function is transportation. So under the transportation, what does it transport? One is it transport oxygen from lungs to different parts of the body with the help of RBC. And in RBC also there is mainly hemoglobin present, and this hemoglobin is responsible to carry oxygen from lungs to different parts of the body. Similarly, another transport function is that it will absorb nutrients from the intestine after digestion, and whatever the nutrients absorbed, it has to be taken to different parts of the body, and that is done by the blood. The next transportation function of blood is that it will transport hormones to different parts of the body. If you remember, in plasma, hormones are present, and those hormones are transferred to different parts of the body, uh, and that is done by the blood. Similarly, waste are produced in different parts of body, and those all the waste have to be collected and transported to different excretory organs like liver, kidney, intestine, skin, etc. And that is done by the blood. Now next is regulation. It controls. Okay, like what it controls is this function we have discussed in plasma, because plasma is also part of blood. So plasma 90% is water. That's why it helps to maintain body temperature. And whenever we have less water, then the blood will supply the remaining water needed for our body. So it regulates amount of water and various chemicals present in the body. And lastly, we have function is protection. RBC, like blood, also protects us from different germs and toxins. So it fights and destroys the germs with the help of WBCs. And similarly, it protects us from the bleeding, because if bleeding continuously occurs, then we may die. And how it protects? Because there are two elements work together, and those are, one is protein present in the plasma known as fibrinogen, and another is blood cells called platelets. They work together and help in clot. So in this way, blood protects us. So these are the three functions of blood. So question can be asked to you about it. So with this, we finish blood. Now we'll be discussing about heart. So this is the picture of heart. The left one is showing external structure of heart, whereas the right one is showing the internal structure of heart. And if you look as a whole, then it is triangular shape, and it is made of special muscles, that is cardiac muscles, and it lies between two lungs, right? Slightly towards the left side of thoracic cavity. It lies between two lungs, of course, but slightly towards left side of thoracic cavity. And as I told you, it is made of very special muscles called cardiac muscles. That is why we have one branch of biology called cardiology, and cardiology is the branch of biology which deals about heart. So from cardiac we have derived the term cardiology. So heart is very special organ because it is made of very special muscles called cardiac muscles, and this muscle is present only in heart. You will not find anywhere such muscles. And it is covered by double layer membrane that is called pericardium. And this pericardium contains a kind of fluid. Since it is double membrane, so between the double membrane there is a space present, and that space is filled with the fluid called pericardial fluid. And this pericardial fluid protects the heart from external shock. It means to say that from external, if something hit, then what will happen? That shock will not reach the heart because it is surrounded by the fluid known as pericardial fluid. Now internally, if we check internally, then heart has got four chambers that you can see. Upper two chambers are called auricles, and lower two chambers are called ventricles. So heart has four chambers. In human especially, we have four chambers heart. Upper two chambers are called auricles, or it is also called atrium, and the lower two ventricles are called ventricles. The left part of heart, this is left part of hand, this is the right part of heart. It is separated by the wall that is known as septum. This is septum, which is separating left part of heart uh, with the right part of the heart. Okay, now blood vessels are connected with the heart. So there's the this blood vessel, and what does it do is whatever the blood is in heart, it will take that blood from the this aorta will take the blood from heart to whole body. So that's why the blood vessel which carry blood from heart to whole body, that is known as aorta, and it is actually the biggest artery. Similarly, we have two blood vessels which are responsible to collect the impure blood from the whole body. Like example, this is the one, uh, and what they do is they collect the blood from whole body into the heart. They collect impure blood, and the name are superior and inferior vena cava. And the blood vessel which carry the blood from heart to lungs, okay, heart to lungs for the purification. So this is pulmonary artery. So this pulmonary artery will take the blood from heart to lungs for the purification, for the oxygenation. So this artery is exception because normally artery carry pure blood, but this artery is carrying impure blood to oxygen to lungs for the purification. That is why it is exceptional artery. Similarly, we have pulmonary vein. So this is pulmonary vein here too, and other side too. And what they do, whatever the blood has been taken to lung for the purification, these pulmonary veins will collect the blood back into heart. That's why they are called pulmonary veins. So here pulmonary means it is related with the lungs. Like pulmonary artery, what does it do? It will take the blood from heart to lungs. So here is lungs. And similarly again, pulmonary veins means what does it do? It will bring the oxygenated blood from lungs into heart. That is called pulmonary veins. And this is pulmonary vein also exceptional because normally vein carries impure blood, but here pulmonary veins they are collecting pure blood from lungs into heart. So both pulmonary artery and pulmonary veins they are exceptional. Now let's go to the number of the valves which are present in the heart. So heart has got four valves that you can see here, white structure. This is one, second, third, and fourth. So there are total four valves present in the heart. The first valve that we'll be talking is tricuspid valve. So this is tricuspid valve. This is called tricuspid valve, and it is present between this is auricle and lying on the right side. So that's a right auricle, and this is the ventricle present on the right side. So right ventricle. So it lies between right auricle and right ventricle. So why it is called tricuspid valve? Because it has got three valves present. You can count. This is first valve, this is second valve, and this is third valve. So there are three valves present. That's why it is called tricuspid valve. And the valve has got only one way access. That means it allows to come the blood from auricle to ventricle, but the blood cannot go back to artery from the ventricle. So the function of right tricuspid valve is to allow the blood to come from right auricle to right ventricle, but not vice versa. Now we have another valve is bicuspid valve. Here you can see it has two valves. Here one valve and this is another valve. So it is called bicuspid valve, or it is also known as mitral valve. And it is present between what? Left auricle and left ventricle. So question may be asked, what is the location of bicuspid valve? Then you will say the bicuspid valve lies between left auricle and left ventricle. And what does it do? It allows to flow the blood from left auricle to left ventricle, but not vice versa. It will not allow to flow back into left auricle. We have pulmonic valve. So this is pulmonic valve, and pulmonic valve is present in the pulmonary art between the pulmonary artery. This is pulmonary artery, and this is the continuous part of right ventricle. So it is present between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. And what does it do? It allows to flow the blood from right ventricle to pulmonary artery, but from the pulmonary artery the blood cannot flow back. So all the valves have got only one way access. Now we have next the aortic valve. This is the aortic valve, and it lies between, this is the left ventricle. So it is present between left ventricle and it will continue into the aorta. So it will continue into aorta. So it is present between aorta and left ventricle, and function is same. It allows to go the blood from left ventricle to aorta, but not vice versa. So there are total four valves. So we discussed already the location and function. Now, difference between auricle and ventral. Sometime question may be asked to you. Write the difference between auricle and ventricle. Very simple. Auricle is upper chamber of heart, whereas ventricle it is lower chamber of heart. And auricles are thin-walled. In picture one, you can see it is wall is thin, but you see the ventricle, the wall is thick. Why ventricle has to be thick wall? Because ventricle has to pump the blood to whole body. So since ventricle has to pump the blood to whole body, it has to create pressure. And to create pressure, its wall is thick. An auricle, what does it do? It collects the blood from different parts of the body, whereas ventricle, it pumps the blood. So since it pumps the blood, that's why its wall is thick. So sometime question may ask to you, why the wall of ventricle is thick? The answer is, since ventricle has to pump the blood to whole body, it has to create pressure. And to create the pressure, its wall is thick. Now let's go to the last component of the circulatory system. First was blood we talked, and second we talk about heart. Now the last is blood vessel. So it is tubular structure and it is present over the whole body, and it is like network of the tube like structure, and this network of tube like structure is known as blood vessels. And what does it do is it carry the blood to the different parts of the body. There are three types of blood vessels. Okay, the one is artery. The artery is the red one which carry the pure blood. So this red means it is the indication of pure blood. And next we have vein, and vein is this one which carry the impure blood or deoxygenated blood. So indication is blue blood, blue color. And lastly we have small network of fine tubules, and it is called capillary. So that's why there are three types of blood vessels. So let's discuss one by one. So artery, you can see if you compare the artery and vein, this is vein and this is artery. The wall of artery is thick, whereas the wall of vein is thin. And this is capillary wall. It is very much thin walled and it contains pores. But now let's focus more on artery and vein. So artery has thick wall than the vein. The reason is in artery the blood flow with high pressure, because artery takes the blood from the heart. So when heart contracts, then the blood will flow into the artery, and in the artery the blood flow with high pressure. So to balance that high pressure, the wall of artery is given thick wall. So that's why the blood vessels, what does it do? It carries oxygenated blood from heart to different parts of the body. That means the artery receives the blood from heart, and since heart is pumping the blood, and that when the heart pumps the blood will come out with the high pressure. So that is why it is thick wall. And artery always carry oxygenated blood, but exception is pulmonary artery that I discussed before. In the case of heart, it is carrying impure blood. And aorta is the biggest artery, and the artery will divide further into small branches called arterioles. Like here you can see, this is artery and it is divided into many branches, and the small branch of artery is called arteriole. And as I told you before, its wall is thick because it has to bear high pressure exerted by blood, and it has no valve given because valve is not necessary in artery, because in it the blood flow with high pressure, so there is no chance of flow back of the blood. So that is why it is not given valves, and it is not visible from outside on the skin because it is deep seated inside the muscles. So whenever you look at your body, then you see the blood vessels. They are actually veins. Artery is not visible from outside because it is deep seated in the muscles, and because of deep seated, it also helps to balance the high pressure of blood, because uh, it is surrounded by the muscles. So muscles also helps to balance the high pressure exerted by blood on the wall of artery. Now let's go to vein. So vein is comparatively thinner wall than the artery, because it is collecting the blood from the whole body into heart. So artery was receiving the blood from heart, that's why blood flow with high pressure, and to maintain that high pressure it is thick wall. But vein is not receiving the blood from heart, but actually what does it do? It collects the impure blood from the different parts of body into heart. That is why here the blood flow with low pressure. So that's why here no need of thick wall. So, but the exception is normally vein carries deoxygenated blood or impure blood, but exception is pulmonary vein. In the case of heart, it was carrying pure blood from lungs into heart. And the biggest vein is known as vena cava. Biggest artery was called aorta. In the same way, biggest vein is called vena cava. And if you see here, then the vein is further divided into small branches, and the small branches of vein is called venule. Like a small branch of artery is called arterial. Similarly, small branch of vein is called venule. And its wall is thin. Already I told you it doesn't need thick wall because here the blood flow with low pressure. And here the blood flow low pressure. So if extra provision is not done, then what may happen? The blood may flow back. To avoid the flow back of blood, it is given the valve. And already I told you, valve has only one way access, means it allowed to flow in one direction, but that blood which has already flown through the valve, it will not return. So in that way, it prevents the backflow of blood. So sometimes question may ask to you, why vein has valve? Then the answer is because in vein blood flow is low pressure. So to prevent the backflow of blood, valve is given. And it is present just below the skin. That's why veins are visible to us. But artery was deep seated in the muscles. Now the third type of blood vessels we have capillaries. So you can compare the diameter of capillaries in comparison to artery and vein. It is very thin tube, and it is highly divided thin tube, and the main function of capillary is to supply blood and collect the blood from cells. So means from here its wall is very thin and porous, so from here the blood releases out, and those blood will be taken to each and every cell, and after supplying to cell, again it will collect back that blood from cell into the system. So that's why its function is to supply as well as collect blood from cells. And you can see they connect the arterial, like see it divides and form the capillaries, and finally again it will collect together and form the venule. So that's why this capillary is connecting arterial with the venule, and this is made of single layer of cell. The wall is made of single layer of cells. That's why it is highly porous. Now let's go to the difference between artery and vein. It can be asked to you, write the difference between artery and vein. Okay, so just before we discuss, artery, it normally carries oxygenated blood, but exception was pulmonary artery, which was carrying impure blood. Similarly, vein carries deoxygenated blood, but exception was pulmonary vein, and it carries pure blood. But in general, artery carries oxygenated blood and vein carries deoxygenated blood. And artery is thick walled because here the blood flow with high pressure. So to balance it, it is thick walled. But vein is thin walled because in it blood flow is low pressure. And valve is not given in artery because there is no chance of flow back of blood because blood flow is high pressure. So that's why blood will not return back. So no valve is given. But in the vein, blood flow is low pressure. So that's why there is chance of returning of the blood. So that's why naturally it is given valves so that there will be no backflow of blood. And artery, it is deep seated in the muscle, that's why it is not visible by eyes, but vein, it is just present below the skin, that is why it is visible to us. And in artery, it will flow with high pressure because artery receive the blood from heart, that's why it is here the blood flow with high pressure. But vein, it is collecting the blood from whole body, that's why here blood flow with low pressure. Okay, with this we finish the circulatory system components. Now let us discuss how blood circulates in our body. So there are two routes from where the blood will be circulating. So this is one route, it is small route, short route, and we have another long route. The short route is called pulmonary circulation and the longer route is called systemic circulation. So that's why there are two types of blood circulation. One is systemic circulation, the longer one. Okay, this is the systemic circulation. longer one, and we have another pulmonary circulation, it is shorter one. So if you remember before also I told you whenever there is term come pulmonary, it is related to this lung. So here see lung. Lung is present in the pulmonary circulation. So now let's discuss one by one. So systemic circulation. So systemic circulation means here you can see the heart is present here. The heart is present here. So systemic circulation deals with circulation of blood between heart and different parts of the body. Like see from here the blood is going to like lower body parts, kidney, stomach, liver, everywhere it is going. So that's why the systemic circulation deals with supply of blood between heart and different parts of the body. That is why the first is the blood circulation that is between heart and various parts of the body is known as systemic circulation, and because of that it has got longer route, and it begins from you can see left ventricle. From here it will begin, and from here it will go to different parts of the body, and then it will again return back into right auricle. So means it begins from left ventricle and ends at right auricle. During this what will happen, the pure blood is oxygenated blood is supplied to the whole body, each and every part of the body it will supply. After supplying blood to each and every parts of the body, it will get impure deoxygenated blood. So whatever the impure blood, it will be collected back by the blood vessel into the right ventricle, sorry, right auricle. Okay, now let's go to the pulmonary circulation. So pulmonary circulation is the shorter one. You can see it is between heart and lungs only. Like in systemic, it was between heart and different parts of the body, but pulmonary circulation it is between heart and lung. That's why it is written the blood circulation between heart and lungs is known as pulmonary circulation. So it will begin from right ventricle. If you remember, pulmonary systemic circulation has begun from left ventricle, but this begins from the right ventricle. So from right ventricle, blood will go to the lungs. So that's why it begins from right ventricle, and it will go to lungs where the blood will get pure, and the pure blood will be collected back into the left auricle. That means it begins from right ventricle and ends at left auricle. And here only one process takes place, that is oxygenation blood, because it is beginning from right ventricle. So right part of the blood is responsible to impure blood. So whatever the impure blood we have, it has gone to the lungs where the blood is purified, and the pure blood is collected back into left auricle. That's why here only one process happens, that is oxygenation of blood. Okay, but systemic circulation has two functions. One is what? Supplying pure blood to whole body. After that, collecting impure blood from whole body into the heart. Now difference, just now we discussed. Systemic circulation means it is the circulation between what? Heart and different parts of the body. So that is what we have written. And pulmonary circulation means it is the circulation between heart and lungs only. And systemic circulation, it begins from left ventricle. From here it will begin and ends at right auricle, whereas pulmonary circulation it begins from right ventricle, just opposite. Okay, systemic circulation is beginning from left ventricle, whereas pulmonary circulation begins from the right ventricle. And systemic circulation will finally end at right auricle here, but systemic pulmonary circulation will begin from right ventricle and blood will purify and ends at left auricle, so just opposite. So from the figure only you have understood systemic circulation has long route because it has to take blood to whole body and collect impure blood from whole body, so it has longer route. But pulmonary has just between heart and lungs, so it has short route. And the function wise, so systemic circulation has two functions: supplying pure blood to whole body and collecting impure blood from whole body into the heart. Whereas pulmonary circulation has got only one function, that is purification of blood, because it is taking impure blood from heart to lungs for the purification. Now blood pressure, because when blood flow into the blood vessels, then blood will give pressure to the wall of the blood vessels, and that pressure is called blood pressure. So the pressure exerted by blood on the wall of blood vessel is known as blood pressure, and it is also known as arterial blood pressure because blood pressure is mainly seen in artery, not in vein. That's why it is also called arterial blood pressure, and it is always in what happens is the blood flows in blood vessel due to blood pressure. If there is no blood pressure, then blood will not flow in the blood vessel. That is very true. And we have seen device. There are two types of device we have seen. One is manual and other is digital. But both devices are called sphygmomanometer. So question may come, name the device which is used to measure blood pressure. Then you should be saying sphygmomanometer. So it is a bit longer. Remember it. Sphygmomanometer. So this is the device which measures blood pressure of human body. And blood pressure is very fluctuating. If you are normal, then you have 120 by 80, but uh, it it fluctuates depending on the situation, like your mental state. If you're under stress, then you will have high blood pressure. Age wise also your pressure will be different. Like once you get older, then your blood pressure will be higher. Gender, in male, blood pressure is higher than in female. Physical activity, whenever you are doing exercise, that time your blood pressure is higher. So that's why blood pressure is fluctuating according to the situation. And there are two types of blood pressure. One is systolic, another is diastolic. So the reason is our heart contracts and relaxes. So because of different situation of the heart, we have two types of blood pressure. Whenever our heart is contracting, that time the pressure is high, and that pressure that is created during the contraction of heart is called systolic blood pressure. And similarly, our heart relaxes. When our heart relaxes, then there'll be low blood pressure, and that pressure is called diastolic blood pressure. So that is what systolic blood pressure, when it is created when the heart is contracts. So the blood pressure exerted on the wall of blood vessel when heart contracts is known as systolic blood pressure. So since this pressure is created during the contraction of heart, that's why its value is more. Like an example, we can say 132 and 78. Here cis means systolic. So see, value is more. But 78 is diastolic, it is less. Why? Because it is created during the relaxation of heart. So when the heart contracts, then the blood pressure is higher. So here you can see it is higher. And it indicates the force with which the what? Left ventricle pumps the blood in aorta, because from the aorta only blood goes to different parts of the body. So with how much force the left ventricle has pumped the blood, it measures. And it is about, in normal healthy person, its value is 120 millimeter of mercury, because this is the device and here mercury is used. That's why the value of systolic blood pressure in normal person is 120 millimeter of mercury. Now let's go to diastolic blood pressure. It is created during the relaxation of heart. That's why its value will be less. So in this device you can see it is diastolic. DIM is diastolic. So during the relaxation of heart, this blood pressure is created. So since it is created during relaxation of heart, that's why it is called diastolic blood pressure. So its value is less than the systolic blood pressure, and it is about 80 millimeter mercury in healthy person. So blood pressure. So question comes sometime. So in healthy person, already I told you, whenever you measure it, then you will get about 120 and 80. So question is there, if a person has blood pressure measure 125 millimeter mercury, what does it mean? What is the meaning of it? Then it means 120 is what? Systolic, and 80 is diastolic. So same thing we have written here. It means a person has 120 what? Systolic blood pressure is 120 millimeter mercury, and the down is diastolic blood pressure. So diastolic blood pressure of 80 millimeter of mercury. So difference is systolic blood pressure, it is created during the contraction of heart, and diastolic blood pressure, it is created during the relaxation of heart. And in a healthy person, its value is 120 millimeter mercury, and diastolic blood pressure value is 70 millimeter mercury in healthy person. And this systolic blood pressure measures the force by which left ventricle pumps the blood, whereas diastolic blood pressure value measures the elasticity of the blood vessel. How much elasticity means contract and relaxation of blood vessel, it measures it. High blood pressure. So you have seen there are some people who got high blood pressure. What is the cause of high blood pressure? Let's learn it. That continuous smoking. If somebody smokes continuously, then the person can have high blood pressure. Obesity. If person is overweight, then it can cause high blood pressure. No physical exercise, then also it can cause high blood pressure. Intake of more salty food. So if you consume salty food, it can also cause high blood pressure. And more alcohol consumption also can cause high blood pressure. And after crossing the 40 years of age, uh, some people may have high blood pressure. And when adrenal gland and thyroid gland uh, have got disorder, means if they do not produce hormone properly, then also blood pressure can be high. And in some cases, it is heredity also. If parents have high blood pressure, then their offsprings also may have high blood pressure. And mental stress also can cause the high blood pressure. If you have stress, that can also cause the high blood pressure. Now, preventive. How to prevent high blood pressure? Because blood pressure high is not good for our body. So we have to prevent it. We have to control it. So how to control it is intake of healthy diet. If we take healthy diet, then it can prevent the high blood pressure problem. No smoking and alcohol, because these are the cause which causes high blood pressure. So let's not consume alcohol, and no smoking. A change of behavior. We should have proper mental health. We should not be taking stress too much. And physical exercise. This also helps to control our blood pressure. And periodic checkup of blood pressure, because we may not know that we have high blood pressure. So that's why the best method is to check blood pressure periodically, so that if there is blood pressure high, we can control immediately. Now we have another disease that we'll be discussing is diabetes. It is also called sugar disease, chini rog in Nepali. So it is caused due to more glucose in the blood. If somebody has got more glucose in the blood, then it is called diabetes. If glucose is present in the optimum level, it is always good. But if it is present more than necessity, then it can cause the problem in our body, and that problem is called diabetes. And it is also called sugar disease, already I told you. And the main reason of diabetes is due to less secretion of insulin by pancreas. If you remember, we have discussed already in glandular system topic. Pancreas produces two kind of hormones, insulin and glucagon. So if insulin hormone is produced less uh, by the pancreas, then the glucose level in blood will be high, and that causes diabetes. So the main cause of diabetes is hypersecretion, means less secretion of insulin by pancreas. So what are the symptoms you will see when you have diabetes? One is frequent urination. Uh, there'll be frequent urination, and the person feels thirsty frequently, and that's why they drink a lot of water, and there'll be more appetite. They feel more hunger, and weight start to decrease. Person become very weak, lazy, and always feel sleepy. And if they have wound, then it will not recover quickly. They so how to prevent it is, one is intake of balanced diet, because balanced diet if you intake, it can prevent diabetes as well as high blood pressure. Reducing mental stress, same in high blood pressure. You have to control your mental stress. Smoking and alcohol, we should prevent it, and we should consume more green vegetables and fruits, so that we will not have diabetic problem. And regular physical exercise, jogging, etc., it is always good for all kind of disease. And the last disease that we will be discussing here is uric acid, where there will be severe pain in the joints. And so this disease is caused due to more uric acid level in the blood. If more glucose level in blood, it causes diabetes. Similarly, if more uric acid is present in the blood, it is called uric acid problem. And in our body, uric acid is produced by kidney. So how uric acid is produced is, it is produced by kidney, already I told you. Uh, we have one protein called purine that is found in our food. So when purine is break down, then it converts into uric acid. In one way, purine is good for our health, but if excessive purine metabolism takes place, then it can cause more uric acid level in our blood. Similarly, if a kidney does not function properly, then what will happen? The uric acid which is produced by kidney will not be thrown out, so it will remain in the blood. So the main cause of this problem is due to more uric acid level in the blood uh, when kidney does not function properly. And another is uric acid is produced by the metabolism of purine. So if more metabolism of purine takes place, it can also cause more uric acid. So that's why kidney, if it doesn't function properly, also can cause more uric acid level in the blood. And next is, if more purine is undergone metabolism, then it can also produce more uric acid problem. So what are the symptoms? One is severe pain in joints. The joint will be paining severely. uh, Stiffness of joint, our joint become very hard, it will be difficult to move our body parts, and that joints will be swelling, and it will be red in color, and joints will be start to swell. And prevention, how to prevent is, one is drinking of water regularly, little water but regularly, frequently. If you drink, then it can prevent this uric acid problem, because if you drink the water regularly, then through the urine, that uric acid can be thrown out of the body. So in that way, uric acid level can be controlled in the blood. Next is intake of baking soda. So if you eat baking soda in your food, then that baking soda also can reduce the level of uric acid in the blood. Uh, Cherries, if you eat cherries, then it has got one enzyme or chemical called anthocyanins. So this anthocyanin also helps to lower the uric acid level in the blood. So we can eat cherries, 8 to 10 cherries in a day, which is good for our body. And we should limitize intake of red meat, seafood, and protein rich food. Like purine is a protein, so let's not consume any food which contains protein. So these are the prevention method. So with this, thank you so much.